Titans, go! Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. One of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in Titans Tower, the basement of Titans Tower. Once again, ready to talk some Titans from the DC Universe with my fellow Titan Talker and one of my best friends ever, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am great, Charles. Yes, we are. We're rolling along. We've got a fun episode to talk about. And when I say fun, I mean enjoyable. There is not been too many fun episods in this season of Titan, of the Titans. Yes.
Yeah, Titans is a series that, it's in dire need of lightening up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a bit dark and gloomy, but I'm sure that's the point. But in this episode, certainly no exception. As here at episode 44, we're getting close to 50, you guys. We're only 6 away. We got to plan something. Yeah. We're going to talk Jericho. And this is the big Deathstroke's origin and Jericho's origin episode. We finally get some information and the big story of how the original Titans broke up in the first place.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of questions about that. This season has been, it feels like, and I haven't done the research, but modern time flashback, modern time flashback.
Notice that,
series.
Yes.
And I felt like this time it slightly kind of kept the story from moving very quickly.
Right.
Just slightly this time. I know they had to do this, but it kind of felt like we were running in place a little bit. How about you?
Yeah, I've noticed some frustration a little bit online from people like, oh, it's another flashback episode. So I think they're kind of beating this into the ground a little bit. But this was some much needed backstory, especially with given how we're told the mystery of how the Titans broke up, and we finally get that story. So here with this episode, Jericho, which was the 8th episode of season 2. So we're heading into the home stretch of Titan season 2. Just came out a couple of days ago on October 25th, 2019. Written by Kate McCarthy, new to the show, and directed by Toa Fraser, and whose work I'm not familiar with. But obviously the big stars in this one, of course, Chella Man as Jericho Wilson, Esai Morales as Deathstroke / Slade Wilson, Mayko Nguyen as Adeline, presumably Wilson or Kane Wilson, Demore Barnes as William Wintergreen, and presumably in her last appearance already, N. Magnuson as Jillian. So Jesse, before we get into a little background trivia that I want to talk about, what was your general thoughts about this story in addition to what you just said? I can't hear you. Your microphone is muted.
Yes, it was. In addition to my earlier comments about I feel like we were a little running in place.
Yes.
I think this was a good episode, not a great one. I'm a little confused, and so I'm going to put a pin in your statement. We see why the Titans broke up.
Yes.
I'm going to put a pin in that statement to discuss when we get to that topic.
I've got a few thoughts about that breakup.
Yeah, I felt it was a little weird that, and this is more into the nuts and bolts, that no one even tried to learn sign language. Just they're like counting on,
Dawn.
like, hey, yeah, Don, just to do that.
Dawn, translate everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
you would think Dick Grayson would know sign language.
yeah, or at least would be trying
That Batman
to,
would have taught him that as one of his
yeah,
skills. Yeah,
to make the effort
right.
at least. So this one, I just don't know. I don't know if it clicked as much because maybe we knew where this was going.
Yeah,
Like, even though we knew Aqualad was going to die, we knew that. Watching that happen and the interaction between the characters and the kind of romance was enjoyable journey. This one, I did not like this journey as much. There was too much bickering among the family. So I just don't know if they executed this as well as we would have liked to.
Well,
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that essentially it was necessary. There had to be some friction to break them up. We had to see that. So I'm willing to overlook that for this episode. I love getting Jericho's background. I love Chella Man as Jericho. I think he's doing an amazing job.
Yes,
and he's very likable. And if you're a fan of Jericho in the original New Teen Titans, Tales of the Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, he seems to be playing that character pretty much to a T.
Yes.
He's got his love of music. He's got his love, he's warm, he's friendly, but he has this, obviously these daddy issues because of who his father is. And, and we also get to see the big trauma that we'll talk about here in a minute of how he lost his voice.
Yeah.
And so it's very cool to see him. And we get the background on Deathstroke. A lot of us, if you've read the comics, you know his background, but I'm sure a lot of people don't. And this is much more in line with the comics than Arrow was.
Yes.
So that was good to see. And we get to see Slade's relationship with Adeline.
Yes.
That we'll talk about here as well.
And I had mentioned in a couple episodes I didn't think she looked old enough to be Jericho's mom.
Right.
This episode, it looked more.
Yeah.
So maybe because I knew who she was, but I thought the actress still looked fine. She looked more, and I thought the interaction between them was good.
Maybe it was the lighting.
Maybe so. Yeah.
All right. So some trivia before we get started I want to talk about really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about Deathstroke and Jericho's origins being told in this story. Mm-hmm. If you're a fan of the comics and you want to go back and check out the original source material, I definitely recommend checking out Tales of the Teen Titans number 44, which was part 3 of the Judas Contract. And this is the big issue. We get Deathstroke's origin, we get the introduction of Jericho, and Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. Now, sadly, in this episode, we don't get to see him as Nightwing in this story.
Yeah.
But we know he's coming, so we just got to be a little patient.
Yes.
But it's a great, great issue. And in the comic, obviously there's the slight deviation from the TV show, or the TV show deviation from the comic, where in the comic, Jericho, who in the comics was known as Joseph Wilson, not Jericho Wilson, was held hostage by this terrorist named the Jackal, who was sent by the president of Kirak, a fictional country, in retaliation for Deathstroke killing an important colonel.
Yes.
But here, it's something completely different. We don't have the Jackal, and I just thought that was kind of interesting to talk about. So there are some differences, obviously, from the source material to this, but it's by and large it's pretty on point. And were you at all concerned by the deviation?
No, that didn't bother me.
Okay.
I didn't need to have it doesn't
a literal translation of the series.
I think it's enough that the bigger scope is because of Slade's life, he
Right.
put his family in danger, and then because of his arrogance, his son ended up losing his voice.
Yeah, he was essentially relying on how great his skills were.
Right.
And he's so busy, like, oh, I can take these guys down in a heartbeat, not realizing that, or not being aware that he wasn't fast enough to save his
Right.
son's voice.
Yeah.
And you would think that would be a cause for a little bit more resentment on the part of
Yes.
Jericho, but Jericho, I think, is just too good-natured of a person
Yeah.
to harbor that resentment.
And for all the problems, Slade seemed to be a pretty good dad on this.
Yeah.
I mean, forget the fact what he
Right.
does for a living.
Right.
Like, he was very concerned about when he found out about Jericho's powers.
Yeah.
He seemed very concerned about him. So I think they set up really good that Jericho is not as a bad son as possible. Now, what I don't get, and did I miss Rose being in any of the back? Is there a young baby Rose that I did not see?
No. Yeah. Before we get into our main topics,
Okay.
let's talk about Rose. So Rose isn't Jericho's direct brother. Or a sister rather.
Okay.
She's his half sister. Rose is the product of Slade having a little action on the side.
Now is that
when he was in the military?
Now is that you get that from the comics or
that's from the comics?
Okay,
that's
good.
from the comics. No, so presumably that's why she's not around. For anybody wondering about where's Rose in all this, well, that's why.
Okay,
that essentially she was raised by a different woman, her mother, not Adeline, and presumably Jericho at this point had no idea that Rose existed and vice versa.
Okay.
So presumably. All right. So let's get into our main topics. I want to break this down to 3 topics. Topic number 1, I want to talk about Jericho and the original Titans. So I want to talk about his relationship with them, getting to know them, becoming friends with them. And then in the second topic, I want to talk about Slade, Adeline, and Wintergreen. And I make a distinction here, calling him Slade, because in the third topic, I want to talk about Donna Troy and Robin versus Deathstroke. And in the third topic, I want to talk about the end of the original Titans.
Okay.
As well. So I think that's a good way to break it out. Hopefully it'll work out that way. And so topic number 1, Jericho and the original Titans. So let's talk about Dick essentially bringing Jericho to meet his friends, the original Titans, who they start off basically hanging out on a beach. And around a campfire, they start sharing some beer. So, hey, hooray for underage drinking for Jericho's case. And what did you think of that whole interaction between the group and Jericho?
So I'm sorry, Charles. I have to go on a slight tangent because you brought it up.
Okay.
Anyone who listens to the show know that Friday Night Lights is one of my favorite shows.
Yes.
And there is an episode toward the end of the final season where Tim Riggins is sitting at this land he had bought, and he sits there and he says, someone asks what his plans. His plans is, I'm going to build a house here and I'm not going to never break a law again in my life. And he drinks a beer. And at the most, he is 20 at this point in the series. And so I was like, except underage drinking, I guess, you don't think is a law that you're going to break. Yes, I thought of that too, because I don't know. They aren't the Teen Titans in this series, so I don't know their ages.
Yes.
But it does feel like they are.
I kind of get the feeling they're like roughly college age at this point.
Yeah, I'm thinking too.
Because didn't Hank get kicked out of the university that he was at with Don?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I'm thinking college age.
Yeah. which is not necessarily above 21, right?
Right, right. No, yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, because he could have
yeah,
been younger. Yeah,
yeah. It it just felt weird, and I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't like the episode as much. There was a forced kind of friendship there. They're manipulating Jericho to get to know things about him to use against their father.
right.
And so there isn't a, like the scene at the beach with they're around the fire compared to the birthday party in Titan Tower.
Yeah,
One of them was relaxed and a loving friendship atmosphere. This one seemed forced. And so I don't, and I don't understand why Jericho is he so desperate for friends? Is he just fooled by,
right,
hey, Dick is obsessed with David Bowie the way I am. Therefore, hey, anyone who's a David Bowie fan has to be a good guy. We
right.
should be friends. I don't understand the whole dynamic of the friendship. What
Yeah.
do you feel?
Well, the vibe I get is that we don't really know how long Dick was working Jericho.
Fair
That
enough.
that the encounter at the record store was essentially, the the way to meet him, but we don't know how long it took for Dick to go, "Hey, it's great hanging out with you. You want to meet my friends? You want to hang with us?"
Yeah.
So, and by the time they're on the beach, we kind of get the vibe that some time has passed from that meeting in the record store. Because they don't have to explain who Jericho is
Yeah.
uh, to the other Titans. They seem to know him. They seem to like him.
And
You
once
know,
again,
and to the point
yeah.
where a lot of them, especially Dawn, are expressing misgivings. They're like, there's like, look, this kid is really nice. I don't like having to work him like this.
Yeah, which makes it even more awkward that no one is even tried to do thank you in sign
Right.
language or,
Yeah. To make an effort. Yeah.
because it would have been even funnier if Hank or someone had tried to sign and they're good natured, like, boy, you sign really terrible,
Right.
or yeah, okay, I, get it. It anyway,
Well,
I just,
the way I think I can, I'm not going to justify it,
no. And
but
I think
but
part of our job is that because that's what we do.
yeah,
One of us comes up with a theory to explain
right,
what the other one may have a concern about. So
yeah.
please go ahead.
But as someone with a deaf nephew, um, I think the difference is, and feel free to call me out on this one if you think I'm wrong. Um, I think the difference is because Jericho isn't deaf;
Okay.
he's mute,
Got it.
so they can just talk freely. He'll understand it. He can hear. Remember, he listens
Got
to
it.
music all the time.
Right.
So they don't really need sign language to communicate to him.
Good
They just need
point.
to understand it
Yeah.
so that he can communicate back to them.
Yeah, and I guess that's a
That's
very good point,
that's
Charles.
the kind of
So
way I
that
view it.
is no, I think that because then it's a little bit easier to be lazy
Right.
just because
Yeah.
you can communicate by him nodding or doing things, and then Dawn can do that. So
Right.
because when Dick and him are talking alone,
Right.
Dick understands a lot of what he's saying. So
Yeah.
okay, good point.
Yeah, that's the way I view it. And
No, you're totally right.
because I'm sure there are a lot of people, at least if that weren't familiar with the character,
Yeah,
watching this show, probably thinking, well, is he deaf? They probably presume he's deaf because, hey, he's using sign language,
right.
but he's not deaf. He's mute. And there's a
Yes.
difference there. All right.
Good.
So I really enjoyed seeing them on the beach. I know that a lot of, especially Dick and Donna, who are the ones really obsessed with this, are working
Mm.
him. But
Yeah,
I think Hank generally likes him. I think Don generally likes him. I think even Dick generally likes Jericho.
I do
But
too.
but Dick's view is that we need him. And
Yeah.
he's trying to be very careful about it because he doesn't want to hurt Jericho's feelings, but they need the information.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a conflict there. And I love Jericho, when this episode started, we get to see him listening to more David Bowie. This time we got to hear the song 5 Years by David Bowie, which is a great song. And, it was nice to see that consistency there.
I agree.
And they decide after Dick and Dawn have this conversation, and Dawn wants Dick, like, look, we can't do this anymore. It's time to cut Jericho loose. Dick actually goes to the record store to break things off with Jericho, but just so happens Jericho shows off his power for the first time, that he's able to possess other people's bodies. And as we get an explanation later, he can take them over, he can make them move and act, and he can talk through them, the people he possesses. And the other person thinks they've blacked out, the person he's possessed, so that when he leaves their body, they just think, well, did I just black out for a moment or whatever? They don't remember what happened. So he uses this power on this really obnoxious guy who's being all sexist toward this clerk that he likes, this record store clerk, and talks his way into a free album because he has the guy pay for it for him, and which is a Replacements album, by the way. And Dick sees this, so he realizes that Jericho has power. So it's like, boy, do we have something to tell you. And so he brings him back to Titan's Tower, and Dawn is just like, oh, here's Dick. He's bringing home another stray. And they come up, they basically, Dick and Dawn open up to him and admit that, hey, we're superheroes. And here's the deal with your father. So what did you think first about his powers? And then let's talk about what you thought about Dick and Dawn coming clean about being superheroes.
So I liked him. I liked the powers. I thought they did it really well.
Right.
I am a little surprised at how. Actually, I'm not. At first you're like, he's very quick to use this for very what you would see trivial things. Like this guy's just being a jerk.
Yeah.
And so we're going to step in and do this. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you notice Dick makes a comment to Dawn. He said, look, with his power, he could very easily be corrupted by that.
Yeah.
And so I think we saw a little bit of that. And maybe Dick did too in that moment.
And what I don't like is how quickly he's going to he took the stray. Yeah. I think it should have been a little bit more discussion on it. You should talk to the other team members. I mean,
it's a 40-minute show. They got to move things along.
I know, Charles, but TV shows seem to be very casual with secret identities. Right. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, especially Berlanti-verse shows.
Yes.
And this is a Greg Berlanti production.
Right.
So let's point that out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you thought that they revealed their identities too soon to Jericho?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
They also talked to him about his father. And this is where they come clean. They're being honest with him and saying, look, he killed a friend of ours. We're looking for him. And, we hit a wall and we thought you could help us out. Now, obviously they're trusting a lot in Jericho at this point. They're trusting him with their identities, that he's not going to go to his father. What did you think of that moment where essentially they dropped the bomb on Jericho about his father? The truth bomb.
Yeah. I don't. It just seems rushed, and I realize your point.
Yeah.
Of that, hey, We've only got a 40-minute episode, but it just seemed a little rushed for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that was mine. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now, anything else about this segment? We're going to talk about the end of the original Titans later on. But any more thoughts about Jericho? We'll obviously talk a little bit about Jericho's sacrifice in our third segment.
Okay.
Okay.
Nope, I don't have anything else.
All right.
Okay.
So topic number 2, let's talk about Slade, and we'll talk about Adeline, his wife and presumably ex-wife, and Wintergreen. And so we kind of get a good explanation about how Slade and Wintergreen know each other. And interestingly, we get the information that, at least at this point, Adeline was still talking to Slade, even though they weren't together.
Yes.
So what did you think of all that? And Slade and Slade's origin. We got to talk about that, obviously.
Yeah, I liked, they didn't go overboard giving the origin.
Yeah.
They established it pretty quickly. I think Wintergreen is a well done character on the show. I like him. I get a little bit why the marriage broke up. This is too tough. And
well, yeah, you're out killing people for money. And you're an assassin.
And as Jericho said, he went from hardly ever being at home to never being at home.
Yes.
So yeah, I understand well. I think they did a good job of trying to show that. I'll leave it at that. Okay. How about you?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that Adeline knew so much about Slade. Now, I'm trying to figure out, they haven't told this story yet, how Slade lost his eye. Because in the comics, he loses his eye because Adeline gets mad with him over Jericho's throat being slit.
Yeah.
And shoots his eye out. Tries to kill him and shoots his eye out. But if you noticed in this episode, when Slade returned home with his bouquet of flowers, like, hey, honey, I'm back, after being captured or whatever, he had lost his eye. Mm-hmm. And so at some point, we got to see him with two eyes when he was, given his powers.
Okay.
So at some point between that and when he returns home, he lost his eye. Now, presumably, maybe he lost it trying to free himself. Mm-hmm. But we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting that they haven't revealed how he lost his eyeball.
And they may not. They may just Deathstroke is supposed to have one eye. Let's just move forward, right?
Yeah, maybe. But I just thought it was kind of interesting. So Adeline, even after they separate, apparently Adeline keeps a link of contact with Slade to the point where they can agree to meet on a park bench at least and talk about it. She tried to give him some advice because of having a fallout with Jericho and return, because Jericho had kind of gotten mad, taken off his cuff that Deathstroke gave him. And we find out that apparently, Slade comes home. When he comes home, he missed Jericho's birthday because he was out being an assassin or something. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, let me make it up to you. Here's a cuff wristband that my father gave me, so I'm going to give it to you. And here you go. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
And that becomes symbolic of Jericho's loyalty to his father.
Yeah, and so it's a big deal when he takes it off, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. It shows that because, once he gets the truth from Dick and the other Titans, he's like, that's it, I'm done. And Jericho confronts his mom about the truth, and she has to admit, and you see the pain on his face, that she's been lying to him.
Yes.
About that she knew what his father was doing. And, she tries to chalk it up like, well, hey, I was trying to protect you.
Hmm.
And he turns it around and goes, "Look, next time you see my father, tell him he's the one that's going to need protection."
Yeah,
So I thought that was good. But
absolutely.
you really feel for Jericho because not only has he had his throat slit and lost his voice as a result
Hmm.
of his father's doing, it's kind of affected his whole family unit because Slade and Adeline broke up. And so it seems rather puzzling that he would even want to have anything to do with his father
Hmm.
toward the end of the episode, to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It I think if I think one of my concerns is there's a lot going on in this 40 minutes.
Right.
You're trying to set up, okay, Jericho and Slade's father and son relationship. We've got this marriage relationship. We got to show how his throat gets hurt. We've got to show how he becomes friends with the Titans. We got to show that he dies, and we got to show how the Titans broke up. 40 minutes, go.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But there's a lot of the way they've set this up is that there's a lot of backstory that they needed to cover,
yeah,
and
exactly.
and
Yeah.
so but they're still having it like, hey, we need to get back to the present too.
Yeah.
This episode does feel a little bit rushed. I will definitely grant you on that.
Mhm, yeah.
But I think they had
Hmm.
to move
Yeah.
things given their episode limitations, shall we say. Now, why they couldn't go a little longer in the episode, like why are episodes only 40 minutes? Just saying. It's like you're not on TV. You don't have to make room for commercials.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
I mean,
Yeah.
Doom Patrol was an hour long show. I don't know why Titans has to be a 40-minute show.
Well, and one of the things that is beautiful about Game of Thrones
Yeah.
is, or for HBO, they'll expand. They don't make it where
Right.
it has to be this point. And I don't know if they are building, they are set this up so they can release it on sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, maybe you mean like on network TV, maybe?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know, but
yeah,
yeah, but it does seem rather odd to me now that I'm
yeah.
thinking
I
about
agree.
it that these episodes are so short in length.
Yeah,
All right. Anything else about these characters?
no.
All right. So let's move into our third, and this is the big topic. Um, Donna and Robin versus Deathstroke because they each have a cool fight scene with Deathstroke.
Mm. Yeah.
And the end of the original Titans, and we might as well throw in, oh hey, Deathstroke kills Jillian on top
Hmm.
of it. So we get some backstory before we get started of Donna going to the gallery. She gets a text from Jillian to show up. Jillian gives her information like, "Hey, we've kind of done ballistics studies on the footage, and Garth wasn't the target."
Yeah.
And it's revealed that we had speculated, well, was Donna the target? Well, it turns out Jillian's the target. Why? We don't know.
Yeah, they didn't explain that very
No,
well.
she just says that I have some enemies or some real throwaway line like that.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they're going to save that for later, but
Or it doesn't
or
matter.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
We don't know.
yeah,
But it does seem
yeah.
like kind of a throwaway line. And
Hmm.
like, hey, sorry about your boyfriend, but had bad guys after me.
Yeah.
You know. So Donna gets this. Um, She says that Jillian says, interestingly, she's been authorized to bring the issue to a conclusion. So my question was, who's authorizing Jillian? Who's behind all this? What
So
organization
I
does she work for?
so I assume that
Is it the government?
I assume it's the
And Donna accuses her of pulling rank.
yeah.
So this seems like a very like a shield-like agency or something.
I assume it's the whatever
Checkmate.
that big building is.
Yeah.
It's the Amazonian, their structure.
Embassy.
Yeah, and so it's the royal family. The queen
Okay.
has said, okay, yeah, take care of this.
So
That
okay. So
yeah, that's what I
Hippolyte.
assumed. It's some kind of political thing.
So like Hippolyta ordered this. Is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
yes, yeah.
That's interesting. I'll buy that. All
Yeah.
right. Um, so later in the episode, Donna gets another text from Jillian, or who she thinks is Jillian, to come
Yes.
back to the art gallery. Surprise! It's not Jillian. It's Deathstroke, who got killed Jillian and her guards, and essentially pretended to be her by texting her.
Yeah, and we do not know why, as you mentioned, why they're getting to be, why they're having to kill her. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And it is one of the downsides of technology, right? Is that
Yeah.
when someone sends you a text, you believe it is who it is.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Unfortunately, yeah. Unless you're FaceTiming them or something, you're gonna,
Yes.
if you get, otherwise it's just a random text. You think as long as it sounds, their voice, quote unquote,
Hmm.
of while texting, as long as it sounds like them, you're gonna believe that. And Deathstroke, of course, is buying into that. So essentially, he's created this trap for Donna at the gallery, and that ultimately leads to a very cool fight scene between Donna and Deathstroke. So, what did you think of that fight?
So I love that Donna uses her lasso of truth as a weapon,
Right.
and a shield. She immediately gets it. She's using it kind of as he's
Offensively
thrusting.
and defensively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. There is a lot I love about this Titan series,
Yeah.
but sometimes they give you things that you wanted that you didn't know you wanted.
Right.
And seeing Wonder Girl, Donna Troy,
Yeah.
fight with her lasso is something I did not know I wanted in my heart of hearts.
I knew
but
I wanted
it in my heart of hearts.
I knew I wanted it, and I'm
Yeah.
really glad I got to see it. So, yeah, it's always very cool. We got to see Donna use her lasso early in the season.
Yes.
Excuse me, when she and Corey took down Shimmer.
Right.
But Deathstroke, and we get to see how brutal and dangerous Deathstroke is.
Yes.
Donna holds her own for a little while with him, but eventually he gets the upper hand, and you see how methodical he was. He sliced her open with his knife, and then punched her in the wound, and then ended up maneuvering her around, and then jammed his knife back into her back shoulder blade, which, ow.
Yeah, he was very cruel.
Right. And basically left her as a warning to leave his son alone.
The scene where he drops the knife to his other hand kind of looked very Arya Game of Thrones-ish.
Yes.
You know?
that was that whole move, the drop the knife and then use it to plunge back into her stomach. Yes.
Slade is not a nice guy.
No.
Deathstroke is a bad person. Right. And I also, what's even, I think, even more dangerous is he has the awareness of how to be so painful to her.
Right.
Yet she'll survive.
Yes. He knows exactly how much she could probably take because he studied her. And that's what I love about this version of Deathstroke. He's so methodical.
Yes.
And compared to Manu Bennett's version. I mean, Manu Bennett's version was dangerous, don't get me wrong, an arrow. But this one is so much more dangerous and much more like the Deathstroke we know from the comics, at least the classic comics from the 80s and 90s.
When he's fighting, he doesn't lose his temper. In fact, he talks about that to Dick as they're fighting, that it's so much emotion. With him, this is truly, he's almost mechanical.
Yes.
That is just...
He's a machine.
Yes, move, counter move, attack, defense. Great fight scenes. All the fight scenes this season have been amazing, but these were both just kick butt. Yeah,
and ultimately, Jericho shows up at the church, so we get the importance of the church to confront his father. Dick follows him as Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately ends up fighting Deathstroke.
So I have my first nitpick, Charles.
Yes.
So Dick's at the
Church.
monitor board.
Oh,
No,
yes,
it's
yes.
the monitor board.
Yeah, the monitor
We
room.
spent a
Yeah,
lot of time in the monitoring room.
yeah,
He gets the alarm.
yeah.
Oh no, it's Donna. But he takes the time to change it to his Robin outfit.
Right. Well,
Instead,
because he doesn't know who he's going to be fighting. He might have to fight
I
somebody.
understand. I understand, but it
Right.
does seem like a little just
Yeah.
and it
Like,
goes back to
well, maybe like it was the Batman '60s TV show where they just
yes,
slid down a pole and suddenly they're in costume.
yeah, one of my favorite friend of the podcast, Tom Zoller,
Yeah.
when I was going to
Hi,
meet
Tom.
Stephen Amell, did a sketch of him as Green Arrow, and off page Felicity's going, hurry, the city's in danger, and he's like, it would be faster if we didn't keep these on stupid mannequins, if a
Right.
hanger,
Yes. Yes.
So yes, that was a small nitpick. I knew that's why we wanted to see him fighting as Robin.
Right.
But it just, they are so free with their secret identities, yet other times not. So
yeah,
anyway,
it is very inconsistent.
yes.
I mean, I was glad to see him in as Robin.
Oh,
because,
I was too. I loved it.
because you want to see him in costume as Robin fighting Deathstroke,
Oh yeah.
and that was a really good fight.
Yes.
But again, Deathstroke gets the upper hand because he is more of a threat. Because remember,
Yes.
Robin is just an ordinary guy. He doesn't have
Right.
powers. Deathstroke does, and he's just as clever as. And what makes him such a great villain is he's just as clever as Dick Grayson, but he has these enhanced physical abilities on top of that. So he's more of a threat, and gets the upper hand and just pummels the crap out of Dick Grayson after wounding him as well.
And we assume Donna has a little bit of she has a little more special abilities,
right,
than Dick would, but it was it was just good to see both of them fighting. But it absolutely makes sense that Slade would beat them both,
right.
Because of his abilities, because of his knowledge. Yeah.
So Jericho, meanwhile, had kind of gotten a little upset with Dick because Dick had promised him, "Hey, I'll let you go to your dad and not interfere," but ended up following him. And so Jericho kind of calls him out for that. Now, I don't know why Robin didn't just say, "Hey, Jericho or Deathstroke, your father, tried to kill Donna."
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that would be enough of an important point to bring up to make Jericho rethink his loyalty to his father, but he didn't. They just fought, and the Jericho's trying to convince us, basically manipulating his son, going, "Look, the Titans are hypocrites," and then the fight results, and then Deathstroke gets the upper hand. He's ready to kill Robin, and brings his sword around, but dun dun dun, Jericho steps and protects Dick from being killed. He basically sacrifices himself, or does he?
So I know your
what do you think of that? What do you
yeah.
think about that big moment?
So why would Jericho do that? They have not been friends that long,
right?
And it is his father. It seems. I would have liked
but
this
maybe
better.
He didn't want to see his father killing anybody.
Right. I would have liked it more if this had been an accidental thing.
Yeah.
Like if Jericho was trying to talk to his father and his father blindly just killed him.
Yeah.
In fact.
Well, I think it's because Jericho's naturally a hero.
Uh-huh.
And, in that he felt that Dick was at least honest enough with him about his father. He's the only one telling the truth about his father, who his father is. And then to see his father actually trying to kill Dick, maybe he felt that, I don't know, that he wanted to save Dick, protect him.
I did watch
or maybe he felt that Dick was right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
I listened. I watched this a couple of times,
Right.
and it does look like whatever special effect they showed
Yes.
Jericho doing when he was transferring his body
Right.
seemed to be happening when he was on the ground. Now, I don't know if I'm seeing things because of what you set in my mind, but it looked a little bit like that.
So here's my theory.
Please give me
Okay.
your theory.
All right,
Charles.
my theory about the way the events. So Dick is on the ground. Jericho has just been stabbed.
Yeah.
Robin loses consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, Robin, as far as Robin knows, Jericho's dead. Deathstroke killed him.
Right.
But with Robin being unconscious, we don't know if Jericho possessed his father's body
Mm-hmm.
and used his body to carry out Jericho's wounded body
Yes.
to get treatment.
Okay.
Or Jericho stayed in his father's body until he was able to find another host body. So the question is Jericho's real body still alive? Because I think Jericho, his consciousness is definitely still alive. I think.
Okay. I think they want us to believe that.
So the question is, did Jericho get to return to his original body at some point?
Yeah.
Or not? That's the question for me.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's a disembodied consciousness, then he could just be floating from body to body. And like my theory is that, well, he's in Jason Todd at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
He's kind of similar to Dead Man, where he is, he just moves from body to body.
Yeah, well, because Dead Man's a ghost, so he's possessing bodies to be able to interact with the physical world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with Jericho, he could be kind of the same thing. We'll see.
Okay.
But I thought it was very interestingly shot. Now, the Titans, as a result of this, break up.
So why are they breaking up?
That's my question to you, because I get where you're coming from, because the way this all shook out.
Yeah.
Why were they so mad at Dick? Because were they mad that they felt that Dick got Jericho killed, or they felt, okay, this is it. Once this is over, we're done with this. But it seemed like there was a lot of resentment toward Dick Grayson than there should have been. Or am I wrong in that?
So,
by judging by your gestures here, you don't think I'm wrong on this.
So back when, before we lost our dog Ranger, he was starting to get old, and I was going to Sam's, and Linda said, "Hey, he needs a new dog bed. Go buy a dog bed when you're at Sam's." I said, "Okay." Yeah. She goes, "And buy the biggest dog bed you can find." I said, "Okay." So there were two dog beds, one of them fairly decent size, the other one huge. So I bought the huge one, brought it back. Linda goes, "Why did you buy such a big one?" And I said, what part of buy the biggest dog bed you can find was unclear in my instructions. Yeah. So what part of we're going to use Jericho to get data on his father was not made clear to everyone. Yeah. We all agreed to the plan. Yes. And
is it just because Jericho died, but Dick wasn't responsible for his death directly.
No.
It was it was Deathstroke that killed his son while trying to kill Dick. So
and Hank staring at him with so much anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so why wouldn't it be
just because Dick got Jericho involved in the first place? Is that
it? Is it because Donna was hurt? I mean, if you had said,
right, But
Look,
Donna was obsessed with Deathstroke as much as Dick was
yeah.
because
And then
of what happened to Aqualad.
Dick, this is bad things are happening.
Yeah.
We need to whatever is happening here, we are not healthy together. We need to take some time apart. We need to disband. But no, it's like everyone had this agreement. We all had a plan.
Right.
And now then, once again, I don't know about you and Lori.
Right.
But very early in Lynn and I's marriage, and we've been married 35 years,
yeah.
we made the decision that you could not say when something ended up happening bad, you couldn't say, well, I always wasn't sure if that was the right decision. No. You can't say after the fact. If you had a problem with the decision we were making, you need to say it before we made the decision. And that way, no Monday morning quarterbacking.
Right.
And that's what this feels like. This totally feels like, well, I never thought this was a good idea to begin with. And boy, you've really screwed up, Boy Wonder. Right. And I hate you and we're going to leave. Now, and also, Dawn's supposed to be in love with him.
Right.
Why? Okay, we're breaking up the Titans and we're breaking up the relationship.
Well, she made a comment earlier in the episode, to be fair. She said, you're never around because you're so obsessed with getting Deathstroke. I wake up alone.
Yeah.
So she's already having second thoughts about the relationship.
Yeah.
And then,
right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You're the one who told me to be Batman.
Right. And she says, well, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, too late.
Yeah.
So make your mind up. So I kind of feel like I feel like Donna, Hank, and Dawn are kind of being hypocrites toward Dick Grayson by being so resentful. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
No, I'm right there with you. Only thing I agree. I like the fact that Donna said, "I'm going to New York. If you need a place to crash."
I thought she was, and I thought she was in Chicago.
But originally, maybe she was in New York.
Maybe
anyway.
Maybe
this is 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But and I think if everyone had been in that area, like this is just bad. Nothing, we've lost 2 people have died just recently by being part of this team.
Right.
I think this is a bad idea. We need to move forward. And then once again, we only got 40 minutes. If they had that argument, then you could say, and maybe they did have this argument off camera.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so angry, is because he said,
but we don't see it.
Exactly. So thank you. I'm a little disappointed because normally when I can't connect the dots together, you're really good at connecting the dots for me.
Right.
So this time I feel very good that no, there were no dots to connect. There was a line and a dot.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. So
I just think they were being very unfair.
I think so too.
And maybe it's just because they weren't thinking clearly because of the deaths.
Yeah.
And I hope at some point they'll kind of realize that. We'll see.
Yeah.
But,
and
that they weren't being completely fair with Dick about that. Because Dick was trying, Dawn had gotten Dick to like, hey, you need to be open with Jericho about this.
Yeah.
So Dick is like, okay, I'm being open with Jericho here. I'm telling him exactly what the deal is, what he's getting into, and suddenly they turn on him at the end. So it just seemed very unfair to me. All right. But, all right. So, a bit of a Debbie Downer ending, but we knew why it had to happen. Anything else about this episode before we get into our quotes?
No. Like I said, I thought it was a little step backwards. It needed to do that, but sometimes they're able to be a little more storytelling. I think you could have edited this better and have shown a little bit more. This should have been 2 episodes. Yes. I think there's enough.
I agree. This should have been a 2-parter.
That it could have been 2 episodes.
This would have been a really strong 2-parter.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree.
Hmm. Okay.
And I think you could have told this story much better as a two-parter. I agree.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. So what's your favorite quotes of the
So
episode?
I didn't write any quotes this time, so
Uh,
sorry.
uh,
You got any?
I
You
do.
always have things.
I'm
Yeah.
prepared, man.
Yeah.
I'm a former Boy Scout. I'm always prepared. So
Yay.
be prepared. That's the motto.
Yeah.
All right. Dick saying, trying to tell Jericho when they're kind of bonding about having bad fathers
Hmm.
or whatever. Dick says, "I was raised by a borderline psychopath. We don't get to choose our fathers."
Yes.
Yeah. And then when Dick brings Jericho back to Titan's Tower after Jericho finding out about that Jericho has powers, Dick says, "Guys, I have great news." And Hank shoots back, "You're rejoining the circus?" Way to needle
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after Jericho had possessed Hank to show his abilities, Hank says, "Did I just black out and pull my groin?"
Yeah. Well, that was a nice payoff because he had talked about he doesn't dance.
Right.
And then Jericho had him dancing, which looked really good. That was a really funny scene.
That was very funny.
Hmm.
Wintergreen, when he confronts Jericho in the record store,
Yes.
all menacingly,
Hmm.
he says, "I know Slade hasn't been much of a dad, but these new friends of yours, the Titans, they
Hmm.
seriously call themselves that?
Yeah.
The Titans were tragic Greek figures, got their asses handed to them by Zeus. Who names themselves after losers?"
Yeah. That actually was pretty funny.
Right.
And
But it shows that, at least that Wintergreen's pretty well read. He's up on his
yes.
Greek mythology, at least.
Hmm.
And then lastly, I have Robin confronting Deathstroke. Robin says, "You killed my friends. You murder the innocent. You're a monster." And Deathstroke replies, "As are you, only of a different breed. In the pantheon of sins, murder is far more honorable than betrayal."
Hmm.
So that kind of shows you Deathstroke's outlook on life.
Yeah. You killed my father.
Like it's
Prepare to
cool
die.
if I
Yes.
kill
Yeah.
people, but don't
Yeah. Exactly.
betray me. That's bad.
Yeah. No, that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Step too far.
Yeah, I guess Deathstroke wasn't big on the Ten Commandments thing.
No, not at all.
No.
No.
Just, yeah. It's all an honor code with him, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
It
So
really is.
what's your rating for this one?
So I'm a little disappointed. Overall, still a good season.
Yeah.
I'd give it 7.5 birthday leather bands.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The now I'm a little bit more generous than you. I kind of like this one because we had the great Robin and Wonder Girl versus Deathstroke fights, and great use of showing what Jericho can do, and got to see Deathstroke's origin. So there's a lot I like about this episode, but it is flawed.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10 Deathstroke helmets.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah, we're not quite in sync. We have been for several weeks in a
yeah,
row.
this one I kind of liked a little bit more than you did, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But together we average out an 8.
There's a lot I'm willing to overlook on this one, I think.
And
Yep.
I think
So we kind of
to
split.
be fair,
Yeah, we split as an 8.
yeah, I think and I do think you're right. The things that work really well do work really well. So I just was a little bit on the story, so it was a little good. I think as we talked about splitting this in half, we really could have done some really good things.
I agree, and I agree with you that this would have been much more effective as a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
dude, we have any feedback?
we do have feedback. We have
Yay!
actually 2 feedbacks on this time. One from a new person who he actually gave his real name and when he sent the email in the heading, but he also gives a different name in his sign off. So I'm gonna just call him. He calls himself Jock. So hi, Jock.
Okay.
Basically says hello, first timer here. That's the subject heading. So hi, Jock. Welcome to Titan Talk. Glad you're listening. He goes, "Hey guys, just started listening to your show a few episodes ago, and I really enjoy it." Well, you're awesome for doing that. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We're very appreciative. I previously searched for Titans podcast and listened to a few others, and I must say yours is top notch. Yay! We try.
That
We're all
that warms my heart. Thank you.
we're very verklempt at
Yes.
hearing that. That's awesome.
Yes.
Listening to you fellas is like I'm sitting down with a couple of buddies chatting away. Well, that's what we try to do here.
That is our favorite
That's our
compliment because
yes.
that is what we want to do. Absolutely.
That's our thing. I know I'm emailing late after Bruce Wayne, but I have some opinions and would like to know what you think.
All right.
My theories, Rose/Jericho/Deathstroke, are this. I believe Rose and Dick and the other Titans truly believe Jericho is dead.
Okay.
But I think Rose believes he's dead just in a different way. I think she knows he can possess others by locking eyes with them, which is why she lost an eye. If he's not able to lock eyes, as in he may need someone to have both eyes, he can't possess them. I do feel so. That's an interesting theory that Rose took out her own eye so Jericho can't possess her.
Right.
Interesting. But that would also mean that Jericho wouldn't have a way to survive, as we find out in this episode, because Deathstroke was the only conscious body.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
So I do feel that he's taken control of Jason. So he kind of agrees with my theory on that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one messing with his mates. I don't think Rose is in cahoots with her father, Slade, but I feel she will side with him because of what she feels she has discovered with the record. Interesting.
Okay, I like that.
Interesting. She goes, phew, I think I typed enough. P.S. I love the Joe Montana Steve Young comparison by Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
I feel Dick has finally gotten the monkey off his back with his initial sharing of his burden with Jason. We'll see how the other Titans react to that. Rising from the ashes will be Nightwing. Yes, he will. Have a great week, guys, and I'll try to email again if that's cool. That is always cool, Jock.
Yeah.
So he says, take care. So, Jock, you take care, and thank you so much for checking out our podcast. Especially after trying some others.
Yes, that's
fantastic, and we're gonna keep doing our best to try to live up to that and try to be the best Titans podcast we can be.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so very cool. Thank you so much. It's always great to have new listeners. We also get another email from Stephen Marshall, who's been writing the show regularly. So hi, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah.
Thank you once again. He goes, hey guys, absolutely love Titans again this week, and he's talking about Jericho. It was tense, had great action, but was also heartbreaking. While not my favorite episode, it was certainly a top 5.
Ah, okay.
So he really liked it. Jericho's story was one that was hard to watch, as we knew inevitably where it would end up. We can fully see why the Titans broke up, why Hank was mad at Dick, etc. It was an almost perfect prequel episode. However, just one minor thing bugged me. It was in that final battle with the conversation at the start. Jericho was mad at Dick for breaking his promise, but had Dick just said to Jericho that Deathstroke had tried to kill Donna, I'm sure that Jericho would have understood. See, that's what I was talking about.
Absolutely.
So I'm totally with you on that, Stephen. Instead, Dick said how he killed people, etc., which Jericho already knew. Just a little thing that bothered me.
Yeah,
fair enough. So the big question now is, where do we go from here? It seems Deathstroke is too powerful for any one of the old Titans. However, they now have Raven, Starfire, Beast Boy, and Superboy, who all have superpowers. I'm sure those 4 are going to be the key to victory in finally defeating Deathstroke. Very probably. Although I can also see Jericho returning, given the theories I've heard and knowing what his powers are. Maybe he's just in an astral plane of existence or something. Anyway, sorry for rambling on, and thanks again, guys. Stephen. So thank you again, Stephen. Great points. Obviously, I agree with a lot of them. And always love to hear from you as well. So we definitely appreciate it. So Jock and Steven, you're our Titan Talkers of the Week. Well done. And always love to hear from you guys. And especially Jock, thank you so much for checking out our podcast.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
if you want to be like one of the cool kids like Jock and Steven, write to us at titantalkcast@gmail.com. That's titantalkcast@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast, or on Twitter at Titan Talkcast. We would definitely, if you'd like to follow us there, that would be great. I think we're closing in on 150 likes on Facebook. So just need like a few more to reach 150. So if you know anybody that's not already liking the Facebook page, please help us out because that would be great.
absolutely.
If you're already doing so, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate it. Same goes for Twitter. And Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
We also would love for them to go to iTunes to rate and review us.
Yes, yes.
We
Apple
are,
Podcast, yeah.
yes, or wherever you listen to, but yes, we are, it is so much nice to see that. So we would love to get some more reviews and likes on that. I can be heard talking Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere, the podcast where Charles and I talk the great Doctor Who. We just finished discussing a Big Finish audio episode. We are going to Charles meets every time. He meets once a week, and we have a new episode. And so about once a month, I join him. So this is absolutely, if you want to hear us talk about one of the greatest TV shows of all times, you can check out that. We are soon coming up on the Fan Zone podcast. We're going to bring that back. We're going to figure out when to talk so that we can discuss the big crossover episodes coming this fall on the CW shows.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes,
Crossover.
Charles and I have our geek pants are just all a thrill seeing this. We think they have done crossovers great in the past, and I think this is going to be epic. And then I'm on Set Listing Bruce, where I talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from across the world. And so I would really appreciate if you check that out. And I'd love you to be a guest on Set Listing Bruce. If you are passionate about any musician, it doesn't have to be Bruce Springsteen, reach out to me and let me know. I am on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. I'm on Facebook at Jesse Jackson, Louisville, Texas. Charles, how about you? Where can we find your outstanding work?
Well, after you put on your geek pants, like Jesse said,
Yes,
you can check me out on Twitter, on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, or at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Would definitely appreciate that. Or Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Or my blog of geeky things. Wait for it.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk, including Titans news, Doom Patrol news, any kind of DC Universe news, comic book sci-fi, goodness, news of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media Group, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where we talk Doctor Who, obviously, and the Phantom Zone podcast that I also do with Jesse, where, like Jesse said, we're getting ready to talk Crisis on Infinite Earths. We'll be hitting that in December, so stay tuned for that. And Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast to do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, etc., etc. And Zan will be joining me here shortly on Next Stop Everywhere. So if you've listened to either of those two podcasts, you know that Zan and I always have a lot of fun. And it should be a lot of fun as we talk Terror of the Autons on Next Stop Everywhere. So please check out Ghostwood. Please check out Next Stop Everywhere. And, of course, check out the Phantom Zone. I'm sure Jesse and I would definitely both appreciate that.
absolutely. Yes.
All right. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening. It was great feedback this week from Jock and Steven. And come on back next time on Titan Talk, because we're going to talk Atonement, as presumably we return to the present day. And all we know from this episode, about this episode, is that we saw finally got to see Ryan Potter as Beast Boy in the little preview image. We don't know. We don't have a caption yet. We don't have a trailer, but at least Beast Boy is going to be in that episode somehow. So hooray! If you're like us, you've been wondering where the hell has Beast Boy been. Hopefully, this will be a big Beast Boy episode at least.
So before we leave,
Yeah.
Charles,
Yes.
I'm a little confused. Is there a new character called Atonement?
I know, right? I was like, wow, it's one word, but it's an actual title. I'm cool with Atonement as a title.
Yes, I am too. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it broke a streak.
Yeah, I went all, oh, yeah. What?
Not since episode 3, because episode 3 was Ghosts.
Yes.
But every other episode. So yes, I'm a little confused. Like, I didn't know you could have a title for
that wasn't named after a character. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How bizarre. How wacky is that? So so we actually get an actual proper episode title next week.
Yeah.
Atonement. That's episode 9 of Titan season 2. As we're closing in on the finish, getting close. Jesse, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. I always have a pleasure talking to you.
Yes.
And hopefully that comes through in the podcast to everybody out there. Thank you so much for listening and writing in and all that jazz. And we'll see you next time right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.